It's Not Your Fault is a podcast for parents, caregivers, and young people navigating the world and its challenges. Here's your host, Brandon Jones.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another installment of It Is Not Your Fault, a teen mental health podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Jones, and on today's episode, we are going to talk about crash out culture. Crash out culture, also known as crashing out. Now, you may be wondering, what on earth is Brandon talking about? What is this? Where is it coming from? And why does it somewhat sound familiar? And I say somewhat sound familiar because, unfortunately, this has been something that a lot of young people are talking about, crashing out. What does that mean? And we've seen a lot of examples of this already, just in this new year that we are in, of this high levels of emotional extremism, and seeing not just young people, but people in general responding to their environments, responding to society in a way that is starting to take them overboard. And what I mean by overboard is emotionally overboard. We're seeing a lot of impulsive behaviors, a lot of illogical things taking place, a lot of risky actions, some things even dangerous and fatal. We are seeing crashing out take place, and they're talking about it online. It's a lot of engagement in the day-to-day dialogue about crashing out. So I wanted to bring this topic to you all as parents, caregivers, and young people, and then also folks who work with young people, and so that you are familiar with this term. So when you hear it, when you see it, you can recognize it and connect to the young people in your life. And also, I'm going to give some tips on crash out culture as well today. Let's define crashing out first to start us off. So, crashing out, what is it? It's a new trend that's taking hold amongst teens, really all people. One that blends impulsivity, despair, and a culture of emotional extremism. It's known as crashing out. This phenomenon involves teens extreme decision, making abrupt, extreme decisions in response to emotional distress. This could mean quitting school, ending friendships dramatically, leaving home or running away, engaging in risky behavior without considering the long term consequences. All right. For a long time in my work in trauma, while me and a colleague of mine, Sam Simmons, salute to Sam Simmons, he's pretty much been a mentor to me since I've known him. Me and him, we have talked about this concept of we've talked about this concept of traumatic stress management, and survival stress management. Sorry, it is traumatic. It comes from trauma, but it's survival stress management. And what that is just this kind of impulsive reaction to surviving, where people are taking their life moment by moment, and they're responding to the environment around them, and they're utilizing things to cope with that stress. And those things are unhealthy behaviors. This crash out culture is like another level to that. It comes from the same tree, but it's not quite the same thing. So let me explain. Unlike traditional acts of rebellion and emotional outbursts, crashing out is more than just a momentary lapse in judgment. It is a deliberate and sometimes premeditated decision to burn everything down emotionally, socially, and sometimes even physically in response to something that's overwhelmingly stressful. And oftentimes, the young person has feelings of hopelessness. So when we think about things like anxiety, when we think about depression, oftentimes we think about people crying, can't get out of bed, struggling. But one thing we don't think about is anger and frustration and impulsivity that takes place. That's part of this crash out culture. We're seeing more and more and more young people go through this every day. Why is this happening, Brandon? That's probably what you're asking yourself. What the heck is going on? Why is this happening? Today's teens are navigating a world filled with pressure, all different types of pressures, okay, that previous generations never experienced or handled very differently. Several factors are contributing to this growing trend of crash out culture. What are those factors? Number one, something we've talked about on this podcast and we will continue to talk about because it is the thing that is driving a lot of what we're seeing with young people, and that's social media and instant validation. So we look at the impacts of social media on the emotional and behavioral health of young people. We look at platforms like TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram that amplify emotional reactions, those visuals, those quick clips, the talking points, the highlighted words, all those things amplify emotional reactions, often rewarding extreme behaviors with likes, shares, and attention. Kanye West has a famous line. It's not famous. It's a line that I picked up. It's famous to me. I'll say it's famous to me that I really like. He says he had said in one of his songs that he was going to, but I think a lot of people do this, crowdsource his self-esteem. Crowdsource his self-esteem. And I think people do this all the time. They'll post a photo, they'll post a video clip, they'll post a thought, and they want to see who's liking it. How many shares did I get? How many followers did I pick up? And what they're doing is they're crowdsourcing their self esteem. They're getting that validation through their social media interactions. What else does it do, Mr. Jones? Well, it increases anxiety and depression. Mental health struggles amongst team have skyrocketed. We've talked about this on the podcast. And many feel ill equipped to process strong emotions in healthy ways. Also, it's a disconnection from support systems. The breakdown of in person social networks and family structures has left many teams feeling isolated. And isolated may be an extreme term for some, it's isolation for others. It's just disconnection. They don't belong anywhere. So they're trying to find belonging in their life. We have cultural messages of all or nothing thinking, right? We have this illogical thinking, all or nothing thinking, very black and white. Modern media often portrays extreme actions as heroic, romanticized, and sometimes a way of taking control. So we see this highlighted on the big screen or the small screen, which is probably more powerful than the big screen. Is we're seeing a cultural message of all or nothing thinking. And then the other thing that is very important is a lack of coping skills. Young people don't know how to deal with adversity very well. They don't know how to deal with displeasure very well. They don't know how to deal with the things that are tough. So a lot of times we see an emotional reaction to things that we should not necessarily see. Signs that your teen may be headed towards crashing out, things that you should be looking out for as a parent, caregiver, and youth worker. I'll also say for the young people watching the podcast, you want to be looking out for these things as well as your friends or even sometimes yourself may be dealing with some of the things that we're going to share. So, not all teens will verbalize their distress and make extreme decisions. However, warning signs include the following. And I'm going to give 5 warning signs here. 5 warning signs. The first, and they're not in any particular order, watch out for all 5. Some may show up, some may not. The first one on my list is sudden disengagement. You may have a young person, they're part of a social group, a club, they have friends, they're working, they're engaging with the family a lot. Um, they might be playing a sport, they're doing something. And then all of a sudden, they pull back from those activities. They pull back from school. They pull back from friendships without a clear reason. It's not clear why the sudden pullback is taking place. So, sudden disengagement is one of the telltale signs that crash out culture may be taking an effect on your young person. Escalating statements, right? They're communicating without directly communicating. So they're letting you know something is up. So saying things like, I just want to disappear, or none of this matters anymore. No one's listening to me. What are we doing this for? I hate it here. Those are all escalated statements, right? There's some level of distress taking place, and you want to help your child deal with whatever's going on. Impulsivity and recklessness is the third thing to watch out for. Making drastic decisions about their future without prior planning or discussion. They just quit, right? Let's say your child was in gymnastics their entire life. Amazing. They're doing good in gymnastics. Then all of a sudden, I don't want to go anymore. They just don't go to practice. What happened? I don't want to do this anymore. I think I'm done. Well, you've been doing this since you're 8 years old. You're 14. What do you mean? It's just not fitting me anymore. Interesting. The next one, increase isolation. Withdrawal from family, friends, and activities that they once enjoyed is another telltale sign that crash out culture may be taking an impact. And then also fixation on starting over, where they have this like, I need to do something different. I need to do something different. Expressing a belief that the only way forward is to leave everything behind and try something new. Watch out for these things. These things show up in the lives of young people in many different ways. One thing I think that we can do for parents is not always try to find the reasoning behind the crash out, but having some sort of response to what you're actually seeing. And as a matter of fact, let's get to some tips that parents can utilize to help. I'm going to give you 6 tips. And yes, one of the tips will be to seek professional help as quickly as possible. Yes. All right, so let's talk about the other tips. There are going to be 6 total tips that I really want to encourage parents, caregivers, and youth workers to apply when working with young people to help deal with this current crash out culture that we have going on. Oftentimes, parents feel helpless when their teen or the young person in their life is showing distress. But there are some things that we can do to help curb this crash out culture and respond in a way that is healthy and helps your young person grow and move forward. The first thing we can do is stay connected. Even when they push away from you, try to stay connected as possible. Might mean you have to change your method. You might have to text. You might have to write a letter. You might have to do a quick check-in, right? You might have to talk through a door, which is really weird and really funny. But sometimes it happens, especially with teens. They don't want to see you or talk to you. So you're standing on outside of a door, and yes, that you probably pay for, communicating with your child. That is the society we live in. My mom would not have had that. My grandmother definitely would have kicked the door down, but that's a different generation than what we're dealing with today. Challenging all or nothing thinking is another thing that we definitely have to do. Help them see that one bad experience doesn't define their future. Doesn't mean that they're all going to have bad experiences and everything that they do is going to end in a result that they don't like is going to be a big important thing for us to do. Teach emotional regulation skills and also model them is going to be important as well. Journaling, breathing techniques, talking to people, expressing yourself in healthy ways is a big, big, big help in this space. A lot of people, period, but a lot of young people don't have those. They don't have those skills to self-regulate. Monitor social media influence as best as possible. Engage with what they are consuming online. Pay attention, understand, learn. This is one of the things they're consuming is people crashing out. So I'm bringing it here to you today so that you can be aware and you can take some action. Discuss how extreme behaviors can also often be glamorized, but the reality is that they can also curate an image and they can determine how you're looked at. Offer alternatives to escape, right? So they do, when people are feeling trapped, help them find other ways that they can get connected or reconnected to other things. Sometimes that might be a break. It might be going to talk to a professional and having therapy. It might even be setting new boundaries with friends, but offer some things that are small and manageable and help them escape from that day to day. And then, of course, the last thing is seek professional help as early as possible. If you notice something, reach out to a professional to get the help that you need as quickly as possible. So, crash out cultures here, folks. I hate to bring it to you, but it is a reality. I pay attention to stuff because I'm a father, but also because of the work that I do. I have to be in tune to these things and know what these things are in order to support, folks like yourself, but also to make a difference in the mental and emotional well being of young people. Crash out culture is a symptom of a broader cultural issue, one where teens are absorbing messages that are extreme reactions are only the way to reclaim control. Parents, educators, mentors, caregivers must work together to help teens develop resiliency, critical thinking, and emotional balance. By recognizing these signs early, fostering open communication, and promoting healthier coping strategies, we can help teens navigate their emotions without resorting to extreme, irreversible decisions. And that's what I want you all to do. Hopefully, today's podcast was inspiring. If it was inspiring, I want to encourage you to do 3 things, or you do one of the 3. Either way, I'm going to be happy if you do at least one of them. First thing is check us out on Facebook. You can find the little article that I wrote about this there. You can find other podcasts there on our Facebook group. Just search It's Not Your Fault Podcast in the Facebook search, and you can find us. Go ahead, like us, follow us, and engage there. Tons of good content there to help you navigate and help the young person in your life get better. The second place is you can connect with me on my own personal website. That's jegna.org, JEGNA.org, JEGNA.org. Where you can connect with me, ask me questions, learn a little bit more about the work that I do. And then also, if you like what I was saying, you're probably going to like something that another podcaster on our network has said as well. And you can find a plethora of amazing podcasters at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. That's ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. Go ahead, check us out there, get connected, get the information that you need to be the best person that you can be. And with that, I want to leave you folks with be safe, be constructive, be well, and we'll see you at the next podcast. Take care.
To check out previous episodes of It's Not Your Fault, or to learn more about Brandon Jones, log on to ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast-quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
I think banking in general can be, at least opening a small business, can be really intimidating.
Yeah.
It has never felt that way working with Bremer. Our business wouldn't exist without an SBA loan. Bremer swooped in, held us under their wing, and walked us through it. And we ended up getting everything we needed. Bremer sees us. I mean, like, really sees us.
They're our cheerleaders behind closed doors, and who knew it was going to be our bankers?
I know, right?